All right, Proverbs chapter 3. Now remember what we're going to do is we're kind of looking at the first few chapters a little more traditionally, and then we're going to start breaking it down by the different topics and themes. And I think the first one I'm going to do is on friendship. That's kind of what I'm leaning towards. So I'll probably have one more of these next week, and then I'll give you maybe a little something to read in advance for the following week. But we're talking about wisdom. And remember, we talked about that definition that I really like, that it is the having the expertise to negotiate the complexities of life. All that we have to navigate and negotiate and figure out, it's the wisdom that God gives. And if we want to be successful, life is going to come down to how well we're able to do that. And that's what the proverb writer is showing us. And so that's what we've looked at these first couple of chapters. Now, we're going to look at Proverbs 3 tonight, so turn over to Proverbs 3. And all of this is the benefits of wisdom. So that's kind of the overriding theme here, focus, that this is what wisdom provides for us. And so, these first 8 verses, somebody read, let's do verses 1 through 6. Someone read that, Proverbs 3, 1 through 6. Okay, Kathy?
My son, do not forget my law, but let your heart keep my commandments. For length of days and long life, and peace they will add to you. Let not mercy and truth forsake you. Bind them around your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart, and so find favor and high esteem in the sight of God and man. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths.
Okay, again, the instructions that Solomon is giving to his son, and these are the principles that we draw out for our lives, to live wisely, to be blessed, and to receive the benefits of wisdom. And so here's this father-son instruction. And notice what he says here. Don't forget my teachings, but keep my commandments in your heart. And we'll come back to that heart business here in a minute. And he says here in verse 2, is something you see a couple of times in Proverbs, for they will prolong your life many years and bring you peace and prosperity. Now he'll say the same thing in Proverbs 9 and verse 11. For through wisdom your days will be many, and years will be added to, through many years, and will be added to your life. Now, it's important to say once again, what have we said about the nature of Proverbs? They are proverbs. They are general truths and statements. They're not to be taken as ironclad guarantees in every circumstance and every situation in life. And so there's no reason to agonize if you're struggling or if you've went through hard times and think, well, the proverb writer says that I'll have peaceful and prospering days and that I'll have a long life. And I knew someone that struggled all their life, and they passed away at a relatively young age. And so keep that in mind here. These are general true statements. They're not ironclad statements. If you don't forget his teaching, if you walk in wisdom, if you embrace these things, if you make it a regular part of your life, if you apply this, it's not a guarantee that you won't suffer or struggle or have even an untimely death. But God, again, has ordered life with these truths. And it's a general truth that when we follow God's instruction and wisdom, there's a far greater likelihood that we will have a long life and that we will have a prospering life. We will have a peaceful life. And that is a general true statement. And that's what he's reinforcing here. It doesn't guarantee unexpected tragedies or problems, but it gives us this statement that this true general truth that this is what is the likelihood of the one who follows God. And so kind of don't And then he says in verse 3, let love and faithfulness never leave you. Bind them around your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart. Let love and faithfulness, fidelity is the idea here. You see this in Scripture, particularly in regard to the covenant, that we're to be faithful and to the covenant. But I don't think he's talking about just that aspect. I think he's just our character, our integrity, our interactions with others. And go ahead. Truth, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Let love and what? Truth, faithfulness, yeah. Mercy and love, interchangeable there. His mercies endure forever. His steadfast love endures forever. And so this would be the idea. This word is actually translated about 9 different ways in our English Bibles. It's this steadfast love, this faithful love. It's kind of a slippery Hebrew word to kind of nail down exactly, but it has this idea of faithfulness, of steadfastness, of committed to that which is right and true. And what do you think about when he thinks about write them on, bind them around your neck, write them on the tablet of your heart? What does that make you think about? Right, bind it around your neck, write it on the tablets of your heart. What's he talking about? What do you think he's getting at here? Okay. Internalize it so it's second nature for us to use. What do you think about? Around your neck, write it on the tablets of your heart. Of course, what do you think about the tablet when you hear that word in connection to the Old Testament? The Ten Commandments, the very instructions that God gave His people. So here He says, put that on your heart. What do you think our heart? It's to be on our heart. It's to be internalized. What do you think the focus there then is? What's a temptation for us, even with the commandments of God externally, to focus on, only be concerned about? That we just externally keep what? The law. Anybody murder anybody today? All right, check. I'm serious, right? Did anybody commit adultery? Well, I don't. Wait, whoa. I better be careful doing this. Anybody lie? See, I better stop right there. Lie, steal. But the point is, it's easy to say, no, I didn't go take somebody's possession. I didn't flat out, someone asked me, did you do this? Or is this true? And I lied. Or hopefully we didn't commit adultery. Hopefully none of us, I imagine, murdered someone. So we can say, check. I'm keeping the commandments. I've got acceptable behavior. What do you think? We can do all that and still what? Not have what? Get up where you can see me? Okay. And not have a pure heart. It's easy to have acceptable outward behavior. And you can do that and not really develop the inward what? I mean, isn't this what Jesus gets to in the Sermon on the Mount? What's He talk about? Great, you haven't committed adultery. But He says, what do you have in your lust? Great, you haven't murdered anybody physically. But do you hate and have anger? So we always have to be on careful that this isn't just about behavior modification, kind of outward only. This is real development, not just behavior change. You see, you can change your behavior, but still fake it, can't you? You can do that. You can conform and comply outwardly, but not be really inwardly. And that's what God has always been after, is the inside out. Does God want us, of course, not to commit physical adultery and physically murder somebody? Yes, He does. I mean, He doesn't want us to do that. But that's not most of our trouble. It's yeah. And so we've got to develop this inner quality. And so he says, then you will win favor, verse 4, and a good name. We'll talk about a good name in a little bit, in the sight of God and man. And I like that there, in the sight of God and man. And that's a big theme here in our relationship to other people. We're going to have part of this prosperity and peace is going to be tied to, we're going to be able to get along with what? Other people when we walk in the wisdom of God. When we don't walk in the wisdom of God, have you noticed in life? We either ourselves or other people have a hard time what? Getting along with others. Being coworkers, being neighbors, being family members. And so that's going to be a major focus that he's going to talk about as well, is the sight of God, win favor with. Now, when you see that, win favor with good name in the sight of God, man, do you remember what it says about Jesus there in Luke 2:52, that he went home and was obedient to his parents, and he grew in stature and favor with God and with others. Mary and Joseph taught Jesus the wisdom of God. And as he was growing in that wisdom, he gained stature, favor, not just with God, but with other people. And that's part of that prosperity, I believe, and finding favor with others here that he talks about. And then in verses 5 through 7, and really this whole section is really going to talk here about, for a few verses, is going to talk about moral goodness. He's going to say, trust in the Lord. I mean, this is a pious, God-fearing life. This is what this looks like. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. Often the Proverbs will work. You'll get the line, the statement, the truth, and then kind of the explanation or the application. And so the way that we trust in the Lord with all our heart is, what's he say at the end of verse 5? So that's dealing with intellectual humility, what I would call that. Don't think that you know everything, that you can figure this all out, that I'm smart enough and got the resources enough, and that especially in the regard to how to live life, moral standards, how to live life, we follow God's directions, God's path, and that's what he's getting at here. Is you walk in the steps that God directs, and not in yours. We walk by faith and not by sight, Paul would say, 2 Corinthians 5:7. That is, by human perception. You don't live your life on how you perceive everything and how you believe everything should be, and this is right and this is wrong and this is what should be done based on what I think and feel. A lot of that going on, right? But it's let God direct your path. Let him set the standards of morality and right and wrong and truth. And he will make your paths straight. That's a clear direction of our life, is to walk in the path or the steps of God. And that means that there's other paths, right? You ever went through a hike or a wooded area or a park, and there's some other trails, there's some other paths. We went in one of those when we were in Denver this past Thanksgiving. When we went to Denver for a week, our family, and we went up to one of the state parks outside of Denver. And there were several courses you could go. And, we kind of stayed on the main one that was kind of the easier, not the long one. And there's other paths in life. And how easy is it to start? Here's what's crazy. How easy is it to start going off, and you get to going a while, and you don't realize you've gotten off path. You've gotten off course. I mean, we know that. It's easy to do that when we're not tuned into God. And so he says that this is what you need to do. And I like what he says here, there in verse, do not be wise in your own eyes. This is this intellectual humility. Fear the Lord and shun evil. Notice verse 8, this will bring health to your body and nourishment to your bones. This will bring healing to your body. Your whole person will be invigorated and will be blessed. You're going to not only have a peaceful life, a well-ordered life, your life is going to be well overall, and there are health benefits. There have been plenty of studies that have shown that people who follow God and have a God consciousness, there are physical, bodily health benefits. They have shown those studies. And so, again, it's not an absolute promise that if you follow and devoted to God and all things that you're never going to have health trouble. That's not what he's saying. But generally speaking, you're not going to be weighed down with what? A lot of and he's going to talk about that in just a minute, the worries and the anxiety and the stress and the guilt and the shame that comes with living outside apart from God and doing it on your own, right? That is heavy to live every day. I can't imagine that, to have to get up every day and figure it out on my own and get through life on my own. And here in just a minute, he's going to talk about that, how life can kind of crush you. And so we'll come back to that as well. And so intellectual humility. Then he talks about, look at verse 9. Honor the Lord with your wealth. So here's another way that we reflect godliness. And we honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all your crops. Honor the Lord. Now he's going to give the specific of how that's to be done. The first fruits, this would be the giving, the tithing, the giving God the first, giving God from the first fruit that you would harvest in your fields and your crops, that you would give God the very best as well. It would often also be a part of this idea as well. You wouldn't give God the leftovers after we've paid all the bills and we've ate out and we went to the movies this month and we've and we went to the ball games. What do we got left? That's kind of what we'll give God this month. I mean, that's not honoring God. We know the first thing should be, let's budget, let's plan to give God this, and then everything else will what? Be ordered around that. And of course, beyond that, we know that there's giving in other ways and honoring God with our possessions. But now notice what he says here. Look here. He says, then your barns will be filled to overflowing, and your vats will brim over with new wine. Now, this is not the prosperity gospel, okay? As some have tried to take these verses and others, that if you are faithful to God, if you do these things, God will bless you materially with wealth. That's not the promise. These are not luxuries, by the way. And that's how we can tell. Grain was not a luxury. Wine was not a luxury. These were basic necessities of life. What did they eat in the ancient Near East, in Israel, Palestine? Grain, and they drank wine. These are basic. When you would go to a table and have fellowship, what's going to be on the table? Bread and wine. And so these are basic parts of your necessities, that the barns where the grain is stored, the vats where they're stored as well, the new wine, these were very much staples of ancient life. They weren't luxuries, bread and wine. And so God will provide what we need, is what he's saying. God will provide what we need. Now, it may not be what we want, right? Big difference. Want and needs. right? But God will provide what we need, and so that's what he says there. And then he says not only about our blessings, submit them to God, our material blessings. He talks about this accepting divine discipline. Look what he says in verse 11 now. My son, do not despise the Lord's discipline, and do not resent his rebuke, because the Lord disciplines those he loves, as a father the son he delights in. Now this verse is quoted in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 5 and 6, that the Lord chastens or disciplines those that he loves. You know, this is more than punishment. Now, you probably said those words or had them said to you from a parent. Now, this really is going to hurt me just as much as it hurts you. Right? We've all kind of, and I remember you hear that and you go, I don't think so. But when you become a parent, yes, you hate that. You don't want to discipline. It's certainly in punishment. You don't enjoy that. That would be, but it's necessary. The benefit of what? Of discipline is what that's what you know is good, is that they receive that and again, it's more than just punishment. It's about training. Training and teaching and instruction. We have the greatest military on the planet, and we have for a long time. And what is the hallmark of our military? What do they do 24/7? What are they doing right now somewhere in our country, around the world? They're training. They're constantly training. What are the fighter pilots doing? What are they doing in the Marines doing? What are the Army Rangers doing? What are the SEALs doing? They're training. What are the people that do the flight operations? They're constantly training. Why? To be better and to be prepared when what? What are they primarily getting ready for? We don't want it, but when they need to, battle comes. And that's how we can go in there and do the things we've been able to do and be the envy of the world when it comes to our military. And that's just one aspect. We could use an example. A sports team. You could tell the good teams. We had a good coach when I played, Gary Harper. Some of you Boomer Sooners, he played on the, he didn't play a lot. I think he was kind of a fullback, kind of a backup. But it was like a whole new sheriff was in town when he became the head coach. And it was run it back, do it again. We're not going to accept that. Discipline, 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 right? And you know what happened? Sure enough, my junior year, we started winning. We went 8-0. We were ranked number 4, headed to Cassia Hall. Oh, they beat us that night. And anyway, Mom, remember that? Cassia Hall, oh, that was a big rival for us. But we got them my senior year, though. We met them in the playoffs my senior year, but that's another story. No, we started winning. We started having success. Why? Because we were doing things right. We were training. We were practicing. And that's what he says here. What does discipline do? It prepares us. It disciplines us. It teaches us to do what? To live life. And to live it what? Successful. Haven't you seen that in your own life, in the lives of your children maybe, or grandchildren, others? And you can see the opposite, right? When there's not discipline. My wife's a school teacher. Others are school teachers. Reagan's in here. We got some others. They could tell the kids that they come from homes that are disciplined. Kylie, we got a bunch in here. You can tell. And it makes a difference in success in living. And so God disciplines us. And so he says that the Lord, and I love that, the Lord loves. Because the Lord loves us, he does that. And so the opposite would be, some parents think that way, right? I can't. Oh, I just hate. And I know we don't want to, but the idea is that we should love the result, the benefit that's going to come from discipline. And so that's what it provides. That's what God does for us. And so, anyway, we accept divine discipline. Okay, let's read verses 13 through 20. Who'd like to do a little reading? 13 through 20. I'd like to read that. Sochi? Okay, yeah. 13 through 20. Okay, we've seen a couple of statements about wisdom so far. Wisdom, remember, is personified as a standing at the city gate, remember, from chapter 1, and it's yelling, it's screaming, it's getting everybody's attention. Wisdom is right in the open, it's not hidden. And now he's going to talk about here, it's incredible, wisdom is going to yield a return. It's going to have the investment, and this is going to be mind-boggling. And I don't know if I always believe this like I need to, and certainly what people don't live their lives. He says it is more profitable than silver and yields better returns than gold. It's more precious than rubies. Nothing you desire can compare with it. I mean, here's a return that it'll never fail. Now, you can invest in stock markets. Some of you have. Some of you watch it, right? Some of you are retired. You keep an eye on that, right? And when things go down, you're going, woo, this is not good, honey. You may have to get a part-time job, right? Or, you may have to get a part-time, right? And you can invest your money in companies and they can go under. They can go bankrupt, right? You can invest your money in a lot of things and you can get a return, but there's always the what? The risk that it's not going to always be a return, a good return. Wisdom always what? Produces and yields a return. And that's one of these verses that you read it in your Bible, you read it in Sunday school or Wednesday night Bible class. Do I really live that? Do I really believe that? I mean, do I put as much attention and concern about my material investments and returns when it comes to finances? Am I just as concerned and focused on putting in and knowing the wisdom of God, which will yield a much greater investment return than as I am my finances? I mean, that's a good question. I mean, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So how can we know if we're doing that? If we're putting more focus on one or the, if I am really seeing the greater value in making sure I'm investing in the wisdom of God because it brings a more greater harvest return than riches, than material. How can I know? Okay, look at where your finances are. Be one. Where you spend your time. What else? Anything come to mind how we can kind of see that? Maybe practical, where we're putting our focus. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. What do we talk about, right? I mean, you work all day, some of you do. I mean, what are the things that dominate our conversations? Does our speech often confirm or betray what we really believe, you think? I mean, what do we talk about? God, the wisdom of, and I'm not saying go preach to people, sit there and work with them all day and just kind of lecture at them, but I'm saying, can't you tell in the conversations with people when they are grounded in something more deeper in their life than just sports and ball games and work and hunting and fishing or whatever we're interested in? I mean, you can tell someone that what they're really investing in life. And I think that's what we need to make sure we're doing, that we're talking about it when we lie down, when we rise up, that the wisdom of God is most what we're most concerned about in life. Yes, go ahead, Jeff. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. Yeah, you can really tell a lot about what we talk about and our focus and our priorities. Is it on the things of God or the things of this world? Again, it's not that when it says set your minds on things above, not on the earth, he's not saying don't ever think about things on the earth. That's not what that verse is saying. But your focus is always upward. It's the goal of your life is always heavenward. Yeah, Jeff? Right. Yep. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. No. And it leads to miserable living because you're always suspicious of everybody. You're always keeping score with everybody. You're always, I mean, it's a miserable way to live. And so you see that in society often. Absolutely, that this is so true to everyday life. And so he says, blessed are those who find this, and it's more valuable. Long life is in her hand. Here he personifies, of course, Lady Wisdom. Long life is in her right hand, and in her left hand are riches. And so there he's talking about holding both bounty in both hands. Wisdom gives gifts to those who embrace it. And verse 17, her ways are pleasant ways, and her paths are peace. Again, general statement. Doesn't mean always true. Yeah, Kathy?
Well, I was, 2 Corinthians 4:18 says, while we do not look at things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen.
Mm-hmm.
For the things which are seen are temporary, but the things that are not seen are eternal.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the wisdom that is of God, that the world just doesn't see it. And so he's saying wisdom can make your life joyful, wholesome, peaceful. A life without wisdom will not produce that. She is, look at verse 18. Look at this language. She is a tree of life to those who take hold of her. Those who hold her fast will be blessed. What image does that immediately bring up? Garden of Eden. What sustained Adam and Eve? What was their source of being able to live forever? Adam and Eve were created in the garden, the relationship with God, so that they would never die. That was God's intent and plan. And the tree of life was that what? It was that gave that. That was how they escaped. Yeah, eternal life. And so here, I mean, what have we just said? Wisdom is to be sought after and more valuable than riches. And now wisdom is the source of life, of life and death. And he says here, God will lead us to this place. Now, He has led us to the place of life in His Son. So wisdom ultimately is seen in the cross, in God manifested in the flesh. So that wisdom was personified in the incarnation of Jesus Christ, who what? Took the curse of death so that we could have that life. And so we all always read this with the cross in mind. And then pick up here in verse 19 following. We just got a few. Go ahead, Sosie. Yeah. Just personifying it. Sometimes we'll speak about, like a ship, be named after a lady. We see things. Right. Well, that's why we often speak about lady wisdom. It's kind of it's been personified in those ways. And they would do the same thing in the Hebrew culture and the Hebrew writings, where they would personify certain topics with human attributes or human characteristics. We just got through saying, as a father, what? Disciplines his what? Son. Well, does that mean mothers never disciplined? No, I don't think so. But fathers were typically seen as what? The hand of what? Of discipline was seen as the father, And then, so yeah, I mean, there's times where the Bible, even God is depicted in feminine terms at times. He's like a hen that calls his chicks. Jesus says, I was like a mother hen, but you were unwilling. He says, so often, yeah, God can be depicted even. Paul says we were like a father, and we were like, also he says, like a mother there in 1 Thessalonians. So, yeah, so often these will be personified because we can kind of have a word picture painted in our brain. We can kind of understand that, right? And the wisdom of your mother, those sort of things can be, and they had similar. Okay, let me quickly here. I want to get through this. By wisdom the Lord laid the earth's foundations. That's why I said earlier. I'm almost out of time. Verse 19. God built in wisdom in this life, in this created order. By wisdom the Lord laid the earth's foundation. By understanding He set the heavens in place. By His knowledge the watery depths were divided, and the clouds let drop the dew. My son, verse 21, do not let wisdom and understanding out of your sight. Preserve sound judgment and discretion. They will be life for you, an ornament to grace your neck. Then you will go on your way in safety, and your foot will not stumble. And when you lie down, you will not be afraid. And when you lie down, your sleep will be sweet. Again, this whole section here, we don't have time to read it because I'm out of time, but these are the benefits of blessings. The Lord will be at your side. He'll keep you from getting in a snare. And so we'll have to kind of pick up there in verse 26. I didn't know if we'd be able to get through the whole chapter, but I just want you to see here the benefits of wisdom. You can keep reading and read that on your own. He's going to talk about in relationships. Let me go ahead and give that to you, how it closes out. In relationships, you're going to have goodwill with others. You're going to be blessed in your dealings with others. You're not going to have to worry about evil and violent men, at least getting swept up in their ways. And so, anyway, we'll have to stop there and pick up there. And then, like I said, have one more week, and then we're going to, after next week, we'll start looking at some topics and some of these themes that the Proverbs really discusses. But these first few chapters are kind of the foundation, and then they really start to kind of scatter all over the place as far as different subjects. And so, all right, we will pick up there next time.